This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We're kicking off hour 2 here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, any of our great affiliates, wherever you're watching or listening, we appreciate it. And if you're a subscriber, you got full access on the VSiN Watch app. Also good to note, if you missed any of hour 1 of the show, we had a great breakdown talking MLB playoffs and college football thoughts with VSiN's own Adam Burke. You can always download Money Moves in podcast form wherever you get your podcasts as well. Stormy Bontoni with you alongside today, Keith Irizarry, our good buddy Jonathan Von Tobel, who we will discuss a little bit more in a moment, out for the day. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll have ESPN's Bob Wischusen join us, talk through some hockey, some college football, NFL as well, the current state of the Jets, as he is the voice of the New York Jets, and puck around and find out, a new NHL segment I'm very excited to dive into later on this hour. But we're going to kick things off here, Keith, with a little front page news or back page news. Roll it.
Let's see which stories make the lines move and which stories deserve to be tossed out in front page news or back page news.
I love this segment, Keith, because sometimes we learn things in the media or on the podium at some of these press conferences, and it's just hard to decide and determine what's important and what's not. And this first one, I think, is pretty interesting, and you wonder if it's gamesmanship or if there's really a decision that needs to be made. Who will the starting quarterback be Sunday for the Vikings to face the Eagles? If KOC knows, he's not telling us, said yesterday he isn't ready to project where the quarterback room will be at the end of the week. Both J.J. McCarthy and Carson Wentz are practicing, but still recovering from their respective injuries. So what do you think? Front page news or back page news? O'Connell isn't giving us any QB insight.
First and foremost, this music is fantastic, and I felt like get your sports here, get your news here, like I was about to happen.
Well, you feel right at home, right, with the New York Post theme too, like put it all together.
Yes, yeah, like there's a part of me that felt like you guys were doing this just because I'm from New York.
For you.
With that being said, thank you. All right, is this front page news or back page news? I'll say back page news. It's not like J.J. McCarthy was lighting the world on fire before his injury. Carson Wentz had, one good game, one bad game, one mediocre game, whatever it may be. And to me, it's back page news, and I think your word was right, a little gamesmanship. KOC probably has an idea who the starting QB is going to be, so I'll go back page news.
Okay. Hasn't been a great start for Minnesota this year. Hasn't been the greatest start for the Eagles either, despite the 4 wins they have in pocket based on some of the underlying metrics seeming to catch up to them the last couple weeks. And Nick Sirianni was asked during his Monday press conference if there might be any changes to the offensive play calling in the wake of getting shut out in the second half to the Giants on Thursday night. He said, they're not in the business of assigning blame, but finding solutions, and said he has a lot of confidence in Kevin Patullo. Front page news or back page news that they're not making any changes on offense?
This goes on the front page solely because of the city or team it's coming from, right? So the Eagles win the Super Bowl last year, and then the previous year, they started the season off 10-1 and limped into the postseason. There were all the issues there. They continuously get poached for their offensive coordinators. There's lots of overturn in the brass and their coaching staff there. So this would have been very simple for Nick Sirianni to kind of throw Patullo under the bus and say it's all his fault, and that's the reason why this Eagles team is struggling. It actually shows a little maturity for Nick Sirianni, which is something that the Nick Sirianni haters would say, like, the dude is never had. He's always, posing for the cameras and grandstanding, like doing all these, like, histrionic, like all this stuff. Right? Put it all together, maybe he matured a little bit. So I'm going to say front page news.
I am just very curious of what this Eagles team is at this point, because it does seem, at least from the outside looking in, that Patullo might be in over his head a little bit. The Eagles, to go back to those second half numbers, are averaging the fewest yards per play and scoring at the lowest rate in the second half of any team this season. They're also the only team that's punted on more than half of their drives in the second half. Saquon Barkley's usage is significantly down, but particularly down in the second half of games. So there's a lot of things that are kind of raising up and making you ask some questions.
Yeah, speaking of questions, so that would be my question to you, Stormy. Do you believe that this is an Eagles team that's in a rut, or are they just an average football team now? What do you think?
So I made the point with JVT last week when we were going through some of the Eagles' numbers that I think that they're a bit of a paper tiger. And I get that they're the defending Super Bowl champs and last year was miraculous, but they've had a lot of changes coming into this year. The offensive line is struggling as well, and they've had some health issues. When you look at some of the numbers offensively, it's just hard to ignore. And I think that it reminds me more of the Eagles of 2 years ago when they won all those games at the beginning of the season, but you were looking at some of those underlying metrics and saying, is this team a little bit fugazi? Are they skating by here? And then it eventually caught up to them. They lose, 5 of their last 6 games at the end of the year, including getting bumped their first round of the playoffs. Like, that's more of the Eagles team that I see in my mind. So I think this is notable that Sirianni is continuing to let Patullo try to figure it out, but I don't know if he will. The Eagles are a 2.5-point favorite in Minnesota this week. Total 43.5. Another team I want to get to.
Can I sneak in let me just sneak in one quick thing really fast. A cross sports comparison for us, being that you and I both love hockey as well. And I know the New York Rangers did not actually win the Stanley Cup when they were the President's Trophy 2 years ago. But sometimes when you kind of run things back, it doesn't get run back correctly. Whether it's you get old or the players are bored of being around each other, whatever it may be, it has a feeling the way the New York Rangers came into last year and everyone's like, oh, well, they fell a little bit short. This will be the year. And then they were average to below average. Yeah. That's the way this Eagles team feels to me.
I love that comp. Okay, we played the sound yesterday of Tua Tagovailoa. That was kind of making the rounds of him calling out his teammates for being late to or not showing up to players-only meetings, shed a bad light on the team and the head coach. And his head coach, Mike McDaniel, took to the podium yesterday addressing the comments. Here's what he had to say.
You guys caught me before I heard them, so it was kind of like, it doesn't surprise me, whatever reaction. I think, regardless of an intent and, what was on to his mind, after a loss as the franchise quarterback, that's not the forum to displace that. I think he knows that now. I do honestly believe it was not, there's no ill intention, but you're talking about, I think kind of a misguided representation of player orchestrated film sessions. And, the bottom line is no one's going to be happy and always is looking for reasons for failure to succeed. So you're trying to look for reasons that, you can attribute to losses. And there's heavy as the crown of being a franchise quarterback.
So to summarize, yes, there's frustration, but McDaniel feels that the comments were a little bit misguided and a room full of media wasn't the forum to exactly vent your frustrations there. Front page news or back page news, though, Keith, what's going on in Miami?
This is all front page news. And again, I don't know, a lot of people were kind of down on Miami coming in anyway, and there are a lot of people that don't really believe that Tua Tagovailoa is worth the contract he got and he's not an elite QB. Put all that to the side. This is front page news because you are trending towards clearing of house. Like, we are trending towards McDaniel's probably going to lose his job at the end of the season or maybe during the season. We're trending towards, is Tua going to be the QB going forward in Miami? Will Jalen Waddle end up getting traded? Will there be other moves? This is front page news because there might be a lot of movement.
Dolphins enter this week 1-5 as they head to Cleveland as a 3-point dog. Battle of the left-handed quarterbacks from the island with Tua and Dylan Gabriel should be fun. Speaking of the Browns, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin wasn't particularly pleased with Cleveland's decision to trade away their starting quarterback to another team within the division. Here's Mike Tomlin yesterday.
To be honest, it was shocking to me. Andrew Berry must be a lot smarter than me or us. Because it doesn't make sense to me to trade a quarterback that you think enough of to make your opening day starter to a division opponent that's hurting in that area. But that's just my personal feelings.
What do you think of the comments? Front page news or back page news?
100% front page. Also, just because he said it, and it's everything that we were thinking. All of us were thinking it, right? Like, you don't trade inside the division, and he nailed it. The Browns believed that Joe Flacco was a starting QB. They started him in game one over everybody else on that roster, traded away other QBs, cut QBs, all of this. Yet they trade him within division. It would be like the Miami Dolphins waving a white flag and going, you know what? Let's trade Waddle to the Buffalo Bills because the only thing they're missing is a number one wide receiver. Woohoo! No, it doesn't work.
And Flacco's had another week with the playbook now. The Steelers and Bengals Thursday night, 5.5-point spread, total 43.5. Okay, we have some breaking news here on Money Moves a moment ago. Big news coming from our own Jonathan Von Tobel, who hit the brunch scene today to celebrate his 5-year anniversary with his wife, Isabel. We miss you, JVT. But he got chicken and waffles, apparently, for the first time in his life today. Did say it was tremendous, Keith. But front page news or back page news, the JVT has never eaten chicken and waffles. What the heck?
I mean, I'll throw it on the back page news here, but it's still surprising to me. I don't know how you go through however old he is, however many years he's been on this planet of Earth, and not having chicken and waffles. I know he apparently wrote that he threw some hot sauce on there. That's not the way to go. You want to go, if you want spice, you go habanero maple syrup. Chef's kiss.
Now that's a veteran move. JVT, I'm going to say front page news. Be better, man. Be better. That said, if you want to get ahead of the line, the Sharp Plays is already there. They don't just follow the market, they help move it. We all know you're not going to outspark billion-dollar sportsbooks or full-time sharps on your own, but with the Sharp Plays, you don't have to. Powered by advanced AI and plugged into trusted insider sources, the Sharp Plays delivers the edge serious bettors use each and every day. Free betting reports, real-time alerts, market-moving insights sent straight to your inbox or X feed. Check them out today, sharpplays.com. Trusted by the pros, watched by the books. Again, sharpplays.com. We got a sharp play on chicken and waffles, baby. We'll be right back.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Stormy, Bontoni, and Keith Irizarry with you back here on Money Moves, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. So much to get to with our next guest. Very excited to welcome in ESPN play-by-play man Bob Wischusen on the progressive guest line, also the voice of the New York Jets, calls college football. He's going to be on a big one in the ACC with Georgia Tech and Duke this Saturday. And tonight on the call in one of the marquee national NHL games on ESPN, the Caps and Lightning going head-to-head. A game I am particularly excited and invested in, Bob. So let's start there if we can. And what's a virtual pick'em game here. The Caps at home around minus 112 price, the Lightning minus 108. But two teams that were playoff teams a year ago and have high hopes this season as well. How excited are you for tonight? I don't know if our audience could hear, Bob, but I could not. So we're going to hold off for a second.
No,
there we are. Did you mute us with your face?
Well,
that happens sometimes.
I just wanted to make sure that, I didn't have any ambient noise there to distract you, but you're a pro. I'm excited for tonight. It's the two highest scoring teams from last year in the NHL. So we're going to see hopefully some goals. And on the flip side, which is not great for the Lightning, they're letting a lot in. So, they need to tighten it up defensively because, through the first 3 games of the season, and obviously it's a very small sample size, they're letting in about 4.3 goals per game, which is all the way down to the bottom of the league. So, we'll see if the puck goes in the net tonight. It's gone in a lot for these two teams last year and early this year.
Yeah, early on in the season, I think there's, a lot of times where you can't really gauge what a team is. But what are your expectations for both of those teams going forward this year?
They're really interesting teams because last year Washington won the East. They had the best regular season record. Tampa was right in the thick of it for the division and ended up doing what they always do, which is make the playoffs. But they got dump trucked in the first round by the Panthers. And the Caps got eliminated in 5 in the second round by Carolina, in spite of the fact that they had the best record in the East. And both teams basically were like, let's just run it back. It's a salary cap sport, so there's always limitations on what you're able to do. But for Washington, their opening night roster had 23 players on it, and 20 of them skated for them last year. And they've really only added a couple of role players. The Lightning, we're used to seeing all of their household names. It's all the same guys. It's Braden Point and Kucherov and Gensel and Hedman and Sorelli and so on and so forth. If they have changed their roster at all, it's just been tweaked. So I'm curious to see what both coaches tell us about, as the season moves on, what has to change so that these two teams take regular season success and turn it into more postseason success, because that's the code the Panthers have cracked, right? It doesn't really matter where they finish in the regular season. They're just so confident in their roster makeup and the way they play, and the style of their guys being just consummate playoff hockey players, that when they get in the postseason, they're like, we good, right? Like, we're okay. It doesn't matter if we were a wild card team, a division winner, or anything in between. And these teams, they pretty much brought back the exact same casts.
To your point about Florida, too, they did start off the season, it seemed, right where they picked off. I know they lost last night, but without Bobrovsky in net, so you'll forgive them for that one, but a great start for them. One more follow-up on this Lightning Caps game coming up tonight, though. For Tampa Bay and just like the framework of the division, do you view them as a true contender this year? How do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, they're, when you've got a player that has a chance to always win the Ross Trophy in Kucherov, if they stay healthy, I mean, they have all the firepower necessary to be a division champion. And no goaltender in the league plays more than Vasilevsky. He plays all the time. He just seems to thrive on a workload that I would think a lot of other goaltenders and coaches of other goaltenders would be like, you need to rest more. Like, the playoffs are coming, and he just, I don't know, he's like the Energizer Bunny. He just never slows down. He played 63 games last season, 63 starts, led the league in that category again. So nobody's played more hockey than him over the past 7 or 8 years. No goaltender has played more games when you add playoffs in with the number of regular season starts that he makes. So, yeah, they could absolutely win the division. Both of these teams could win their respective divisions, but is that the goal? Does that accomplish what they want accomplished? It is interesting when you talk to Paul Maurice when you're in Florida. He has more like kind of conceptual goals about how he wants his team to look and function, and are they getting to their game? And there could be a game with Florida where they lose 3-1, and afterwards they're not really happy with how they played. And there could be a game where they win 6-2, and afterwards he's like, yeah, I didn't like what I saw tonight. It's just, it's all about the eye test to him, and not so much the standings and the results. And then when they get to the playoffs, it's about, are they playing the style that he wants them to play? And for these teams, I don't think the Kucherovs and the Ovechkins need any more regular season accomplishments, right? I mean, at this point, certainly for Ovechkin, he's in it to try to win one more cup.
Bob, you cover so many sports on the national level. So how would you kind of quantify to the NHL novice fans out there what it meant for the Oilers to get a deal done with Connor McDavid?
Well, it was funny. When I saw the deal, my first thought was, it's only a couple of years, but $25 million, that sounds about right. I mean, that's a lot to give to, but he's the best player in the world. And it seems like some of these guys are approaching $20 million. And then I said, well, wait a minute. It's $25 million total, not $25 million per year. Oh my God. This is a 2-year bargain. And basically it reminded me of a Tom Brady contract, right? And he's not married to a supermodel that's making more than him, as far as I know. So, he didn't have that alternate flow of income coming into the household when Brady was back in the day, married to Giselle and signing like cap-friendly contract after cap-friendly contract. This, to me, sends a very clear message. McDavid is saying, I'm giving you 2 years, and I am giving you as much cap flexibility as I can realistically give you. I'm a $12.5 million player where, like a Kaprizov just signed for $5 million a year more than me. And by any metric, Connor McDavid's the best player in the world. So what message is he sending? It's short term, and you've got more cap space than I bet you imagined you would. we better win, and you guys better push the right buttons and surround me with the right team that can help me win, or 2 years from now, I'm going to go try something else. And who can blame them, right? If you're going to give them the discount, then they have to go out and capitalize on the discount you gave them.
And a motivated Connor McDavid has the Oilers' as second shot on the board to win the Stanley Cup this year. Obviously, they've got there each of the last 2 years, but can they get over the hump? We'll see. Last couple minutes, I did want to ask you, Bob, about the state of the New York Jets right now. Obviously, you are the voice, have been for a long time, I know.
I know.
0-6 start to the year.
That's why I had the phone on mute. I mean, when you first brought me in and said, voice of the Jets, I had to resist.
I'm
groaning
sorry.
a little bit because of my poor football team and what they're going through. It's been a tough start.
I know it's been tough. It's been tough for the start for Aaron Glenn, and then you get the news that Garrett Wilson's going to miss the next couple weeks. Just how impactful is that for their offense over this stretch where he's going to be unavailable?
Well, that's massive because he's the only kind of like home run hitting threat that they have on their offense. As talented and as amazing as Breece Hall is, he hasn't hit home runs this year so far the way that Garrett Wilson's capable. So, yeah, I mean, they're losing their best offensive player, and they're having a hard time scoring to begin with. So the one thing they've shown, and we'll see how it plays out in the 2 weeks without him, if that's what it is they have been able against everybody but Denver to run the ball and run it consistently. And they're going to have to lean on that. I don't see any other way for them to function. I mean, they've done a lot of 2 tight ends, 6 offensive linemen, and we're just going to come out and try and push you around. This past week, they were unable to run the ball, but in previous weeks when they've had games where they've run for 150 or close to 200 yards, the problem then has been fumbling. They were number 1 in the league in most fumbles and number 1 in the league in most fumbles lost coming into this last week as a running team. That's not a good combination. So they're going to have to get very inventive in terms of creating offense, and their defense is just going to have to be shut down because without Garrett Wilson, it's hard to imagine them scoring more than about 20 points a game.
Bob, appreciate your time more than you know, especially in such a busy time of the year for you. Have a great call tonight. Thanks for doing this.
You got it. Thanks.
Bob Wischusen, everybody. Follow him on X at ESPN Bob, and make sure you check him out tonight on ESPN, 7 Eastern. Caps and Lightning going head-to-head. We're going to step aside. When we come back, more hockey talk. Puck around and find out. Have to be careful saying that one, but going to be a fun segment coming up next.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Stormy, Bontony with you alongside Keith Irizarry and for our good friend JVT today. Thank you to Bob Wischusen for joining us in the last segment. ESPN play-by-play man did want to wrap up one of his thoughts real quickly as we closed out talking about the New York Jets and their start to the season, Keith. 0-6, obviously had the ugly overseas performance against the Broncos. Offensively, there's a lot going wrong, and it goes from bad to worse with Garrett Wilson now dealing with an injury, as we discussed. But now I couldn't help but see that graphic that popped up as we were talking to Bob, that we are out now to Carolina being 2.5-point road favorites in New York. What do we think about that number, and what do we think about the Panthers right now in relation to what's going on with New York?
What would surprise you more? The Jets go winless or win 3 games this season?
Ooh.
Like, what if you had to bet on one? The Jets win 3 games or they go winless. Like, you have to bet on one. There's no middle ground.
I would still say winless because it's so hard to be an NFL team and go 0-17. That said, and I mean,
So you would bet on the 3 wins?
Correct. Yes, but I don't love it.
Okay, I would bet on winless. Winless. Take a look at the schedule. Yeah, I honestly think this Jets team is bad. And part of my job being here in New York and working for SNY, which is a New York-based station that covers the New York Jets. So I'm around this. I think they're a bad football team. And it happens every once in a while. Like, it really does. And this isn't me being like, oh my God, fire everybody. I don't think that suddenly Aaron Glenn is a terrible head coach and maybe he'll turn things around. But Justin Fields is not growing the way that the Jets were going to hope that he would grow. You heard Bob Wischusen talk about it there. Breece Hall is not necessarily hitting the home runs that they're expecting. Now they don't have their top wide receiver for a couple of weeks. The offensive line is nothing to write home about. The defense has been so-so. Like, there's just nothing that you can hang your hat on with this team. They're bad. Now, realistically, they're gonna find a way to almost accidentally win 1 or 2 games, but that's why I said it, because I don't think they get to 3 wins. I think they probably get to 2. But if I had to bet, I would bet on them getting 0 more than them getting 3.
Gosh, it's ugly. Again, a 2.5-point dog to Carolina this week. They're at Cincinnati next week and then have a bye. And after the bye is when they are hopeful to get Garrett Wilson back, at least according to reports. Justin Fields this past week, 45 yards passing, but sacked 9 times for a loss of 55. So keep that in mind as well. Garrett Wilson is a massive... so bad, is a massive leader in the wide receiver room, though. 36 catches for 395 and 4 touchdowns. Their next closest wideout behind him is Josh Reynolds, 8 catches for 72 yards on the season. So just to give you a little bit of perspective for where they're at. Okay, that said, another layer of what...
So you mean that their number 2 wide receiver has 8 more catches than me and you combined?
Correct. Let's throw us in, coach. We're ready. We are ready. But another thing we talked about, obviously, with Bob was the NHL and the game that he'll be calling tonight with the Caps and Lightning. And I wanted to talk out because I know you have a handful of other plays, and we'll get to them this segment and next segment as well as we wrap up our best bets for the day. Which, by the way, new segment title, Puck Around and Find Out. It's going to be our weekly hockey segment. Get excited, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to come up with an open. It's going to be pretty good. I'm excited. That said, for the Caps and Lightning, it's interesting, this Tampa Bay team, I mean, both of these teams, I kind of came into the season with an expectation of, okay, these are probably going to be under teams as we go throughout the course of the year. The Caps have largely played out that way. The Lightning, as Bob said, have not. We have had 3 games for the Tampa Bay Lightning. We have had 3 overs because they can score goals offensively, but they have not been stopping them, which has been a surprise for me, at least early on in the season. Is this just an early season thing, or should we actually maybe be targeting overs for the Lightning moving forward if their decor and Vasilevsky aren't going to stand up tall?
It feels like an early season thing, but I think that, until it gets fixed, you can kind of target this. Tampa Bay has allowed 9 goals in 5v5 this year. That is tied for the most in the NHL. Now, on the flip side, Washington, as bad as they haven't been great this season, they've only given up 1 goal in 5v5. That's actually tied for the least. So there's that. I think when you look at Tampa Bay, until they prove they can play defense, yeah, you can target overs with them. And until Vasilevsky kind of wakes up and, becomes a guy that is routinely in the conversation for the Vezina, target the over. I think you could do that for now. My gut is they'll fix this and they will end up being better.
I'm going to stay off betting this game tonight. I do lean Tampa Bay, even with them being on the second half of a back-to-back. Got the win against Boston yesterday. We'll see what they can do today in Washington. The total 5.5 is juiced slightly to the over, by the way, at -130. One game you have a couple of bets in is the Vegas Golden Knights and Calgary Flames going head-to-head tonight. Vegas, a -175 road favorite in this spot. Total 5.5, and Vegas, I'm sure, just hoping not to have another game go to freaking overtime, because all 3 of their games to this point have, and the overall result has not been great on the back end. One thing, though, is they have been scoring goals at will, and you're kind of targeting them to continue that trend tonight.
Yeah, cards on table. I have a ticket on Vegas to win the cup at 10-1. Took that before the season. I think my ticket was +450 for them to just win the West. I'm really all in on Vegas. I think they made all the right moves in the offseason. And for tonight, we're going to go over 3.5 goals, got plus money on it, +105. And there's 2 reasons to pick this. One, Vegas has scored 4 or more goals in 2 of the 3 games that they played this season. And on the other side, Calgary has given up 4 goals per game this season, 12 in total. Dustin Wolf is expected to be between the pipes for the Flames. He has struggled mightily this year. Put it all together. I was thinking about a game total over here. I think it's a safer bet to play Vegas at the over 3.5. Like, they might win this game 4-1, and the game total was, I think it was 5.5. Yeah, it is 5.5. So then I lose. So let me just roll with Vegas here to get the over 3.5.
Yeah, I know they struggled at Seattle, but it feels like a bounce back opportunity against a team, as you mentioned, that defensively has been allowing a handful of goals. The shining star of Vegas to open the season has been Pavel Dorofeev, and I know he had a great season joining the Vegas Golden Knights last year, and when he was injured for a tick during the playoffs, he was very, very missed. He's got 5 goals to start the season. The shortest shot on the board tonight to have an anytime goal as well, at plus 165, but sometimes when you can't bet the guy who's been performing very highly, there are guys around him that you can target for him to continue producing.
Yes.
How are you playing it tonight?
Exactly, and that's what we're doing. So while Pavel has the 5 goals, and I think 3 of them have come on the power play this year. I want to double check that, but I think 3 of his goals have been on the power play. His line mate, when it's 5v5, is Tomas Hertl. So Hertl, who has struggled early this season, only 1 assist and no goals. Let's just play him to get a point. Very digestible number at minus 125. The Ducks are averaging almost 40 shots on goal per game. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. This is a potential breakout spot for Tomas Hertl in this situation. So if Pavel can get a goal and their line mate with him is Tomas Hertl, you roll with him just to get a point.
4 of his 5 goals coming on the power play, buddy. So yes.
Oh, there you go. 4 or 5.
I didn't even realize it was that many. Look at him go. Let's move forward, and we can keep it in the division with the Anaheim Ducks, minus 148 favorite today against the Penguins. Ducks had a tough opener in Seattle, scored just 1 goal that game, but bounced back to score 7 in an overtime shootout at San Jose. This is Anaheim's first game at home. The Penguins beat the Rangers on opening night. Shocked a lot of people with that result, but the Rangers did get their redemption on Saturday, didn't they? 6-1 there. But that was more like the Pens team we expected to see. The Ducks are a team that, at least to me, are youthful but on the rise. How do you see tonight shaking out?
Yeah, that's where I was jumping to in my notes. So I'm going to go Chris Kreider to score an anytime goal at 2-1 odds. The Ducks, the nugget I was going to give you, they average almost 40 shots on goal per game this year. We know that Kreider loves to be in front of the goal, see if he can get a tip in there. Tristan Jarry on the road over his last 15 games, giving up almost 4 goals per game. Kreider has 2 goals on 6 shots this season. Feels like a good spot for Kreider.
Yeah, big to bring in Chris Kreider to this roster this year. This is a team, like I mentioned, them being on the rise. The Ducks are a team, I bet them plus 270 to make the playoffs. Maybe the Joel Quenneville effect will take hold. We'll get the most out of some of this young talent that they've put together. And obviously Kreider, who you have to score a goal tonight, a big addition for what they're trying to create. Good reminder for you guys as well as we look ahead in all sports, but notably like with it being football season as well. We've got a new AI prop player projection tool up at vsin.com. Opta AI, it's the same trusted brand behind soccer analytics in the UK. You get AI-driven projections for quarterbacks, wideouts, and running backs across all the major popular prop categories compared directly to current DraftKings lines to highlight value. You can sort by player, game, or stat and track how projections shift throughout the week with injury updates and team trends. vsin.com/props is how you can find all that information. Again, that's vsin.com/props. And while you're there, you can find all of our show hosts and guests' best bets, including some of the stuff that Keith is breaking down right now. We'll have our best bets in totality at the end of the show coming up after this break. Also, all of our hockey content. We have a VSiN hockey hub right now. Shout out our guy, Jonathan Davis, for all of the work he did in the preseason and continued daily articles. And again, you get it all when you're at vsin.com and you're a subscriber. We're going to step aside. We're wrapping up this Tuesday edition of the program next on VSiN.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We are wrapping up this Tuesday edition of Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network, Sirius XM channel 158. Stormy Buonantony and Keith Irizarry with you. We will get to our best bets continued in a moment or two, but I did want to follow up, Keith, and ask you, as last segment we were talking plenty of hockey. We had some good NHL conversation with Bob Wischusen of ESPN earlier as well. Have you had any big takeaways from the early season? Teams that have surprised you for better or for worse, or anything that has really stood out?
So, I didn't know if you'd asked this morning, but as I was combing through the standings, nothing is actually shocking me. It's really weird. I feel like in every league, there's always like the one team that starts off, and what I mean by every league, NBA, NFL, like whatever, right? Mm-hmm. There's one team that'll start off 0-3 and you're shocked, right? I think the Baltimore Ravens in the NFL right now, 1-5, you're shocked. The Kansas City Chiefs stumbling out of the gate, you're shocked. All right, so the Islanders are 0-3. I came in believing they'd be probably an average team. I'm not shocked. The Sabres are 0-3. Not shocked. The Panthers being 3-1, you're defending champs. Not shocked. Maybe a little surprised by the Bruins being 3-1 because I thought there was a chance that, they would struggle this year, and maybe they will down the road. But then again, all right, so the Colorado Avalanche being 3-0. We expect them to be one of the teams vying for Lord Stanley at the end of this all, right? The Kraken being 2-0 maybe jumps out a little bit to you. Mm-hmm. Actually, I'll say this. You know what surprised me the most? Lane Hudson signing that deal that'll start next year that's worth like $70-something million for 10 years. That it feels the way the Braves signed Ronald Acuna Jr. and Michael Harris and tried to sign them before they would want like millions and millions, mm-hmm. tens and tens of millions more dollars, right? So if Lane Hudson, who wins the Calder last year, becomes one of the best defensemen in all of the NHL, when he turns 30, he'll be able to finally get a really big deal. If he becomes an average defenseman, because all we have is the one season right there, then the contract makes sense. If he is an absolute bust, and we hope not, and none of us think that he will be a bust, then you're like, all right, well, maybe they jumped the gun and paid him too early. So maybe that surprises me early on, him getting that deal.
And that deal, by the way, 8 years, $70.8 million for the 21-year-old, as you mentioned, the defending Calder Trophy winner. That said, and maybe this is a good opportunity real quickly to turn our attention to the Montreal Canadiens, who have their home opener tonight hosting the Seattle Kraken, who you just talked about. Maybe a little bit surprised, actually, that they have played as well as they have to this point. The Kraken a plus 130 dog. Montreal minus 155 here. There is another young gun on the Montreal roster that you are looking at for a prop tonight.
Yeah, I love this Montreal team, by the way. I was on the call of Canadiens and Red Wings last week, and we could talk about that in just a second. But Zach Bolduc, I like him to score a goal, plus 230. I think you could also look at the shots on goal, which is an interesting category, because remember, it has to actually be shots on goal, not just shots taken. 3 or more shots on goal by Bolduc at plus 135, which is something he is routinely doing this season so far. He's been very active, at least 3 shots on goal in every game this season. He has scored a goal in all 3 games this season. He's playing on that second line. So likely the opposing defense he's playing against is Montour and Lindgren on the side for Seattle, and they have struggled mightily. So I feel like this is just a really good spot for the Duke to get another goal.
Okay, so you mentioned the game that you called. You're going to be calling a handful of games this season. I know people know the work you do for NHL Network, but maybe not as much of your play-by-play background with hockey. You've got a fun year ahead. Can you tell people what's going on?
Yeah, this is gonna be good. So last season, the league decided to try to push a little initiative, a little bit more globally into Australia. Did a few test games for a channel out in Australia, and the Australians loved it. They are all in, and I will be calling 20 to 21 games depending on the schedule. We're going to be doing a Friday night game of the week. It'll always be an NHL game live at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. here, which then ends up being, I think, 11 a.m. or noon in Australia, and got our first game this Friday officially. It'll be the Lightning and the Red Wings on Friday night.
How cool is that? So then going back to the Lightning Cap game tonight, you'll be that much more dialed in on what's going on with Tampa Bay.
Oh, you know I will be, and my charts are already built, and they are glorious looking. Oh, they are so pretty.
What was the word you used for them earlier, if I recall, in a commercial break?
I think, so you're gonna make the tan guy blush. So, and the way I started it was, you and I have known each other for a while, and I gathered that you were a nerd like me, and I say that in the most nice way possible, where you probably color code your notes and you put things in bold or underline, whatever. And that's how I've always been. It's the way that I can memorize things. It's the way that I know for a fact I can see certain things. So I've done a lot of play-by-play in my career. I did a boatload of hockey early in my career, did a bunch of hockey for the NHL Network last year, the Showcase Game of the Weeks. And I decided to tinker with my chart a little bit. Yeah, it's sexy. I'm just going to throw it out there. My hockey charts, they are sexy. That's what you wanted to hear? That's a fact.
The people needed to know. They did, but I'm with you. Yes, I'm very into color coding myself. And like you find colors that draw your attention better. Like I have all of my injuries in a very specific shade of red on my card. So I understand what you're talking about, but a little more behind the curtain. We had Bob Wischusen on earlier, as we mentioned. And in the commercial break before we came out, as we were having this discussion, I asked Bob, like, okay, what do you think about your charts? And he did say he thinks they're conventionally attractive. So there you go. We've got some good charts going on in the NHL. These last couple of minutes here, Keith, real quickly, why don't you rehash the hockey plays you gave out from the last segment real quickly? And then also the MLB prop you are looking at in tonight's Dodgers game for the people.
All right, so I'll wait on Vegas because that's going to be part of my best bets. In that Vegas game, I do like Thomas Hertl to get a point at -125. He has struggled early this year. I think tonight is a potential for him to break out, only 1 assist on the season. Chris Kreider, get a goal at 2-1 odds. He's routinely right in front of the net. This is another opportunity for the Ducks to continue to throw shots on net. 40 shots on goal per game this season is ridiculous, and Tristan Jarry has struggled. I gave you the Bolduc goal scoring at +230. Also take a look at his shots on goal and sneak in one more, Willie Nylander, just to get an assist. -105. It's the Predators and the Maple Leafs. He's got 3 assists in 3 games played. His career versus the Predators, he's been really good. 7 assists in 15 games against them. Also, by the way, loves playing at home at Scotiabank Arena. Has 25 assists last year, just 14 on the road. So those are just a little rehashing of some of my hockey plays. For my best bets, Vegas getting over 3.5 goals at +105. I think you're going to tell me on that one, so I'm going to leave you to talk a little bit more about that one. Let me sneak in my baseball one. Freddie Freeman, over 1.5 total bases, +130. Now, I know hits were at a premium last night, but he's got good career numbers against Peralta, including 3 extra base hits. He had a home run last night, 15 home runs in 69 career playoff games. This postseason, Freddie Freeman has 7 hits. 4 of those are for extra bases. And oh, by the way, Freddie Peralta, as good as he was during the regular season, hasn't been great during the postseason. 3 of the 7 hits he's given up have been extra bases.
Yeah, Freddie Freeman, that solo shot got the scoring finally going for the Dodgers yesterday. They are -121 favorites, by the way, just for the full game price. Freddie Peralta and the Brewers around even money, run total 7.5 there. And yeah, I am with you on the Vegas team total over. I know we didn't see the goal production we expected against Seattle, but a big bounce back spot for them against a Calgary defense that I don't trust a ton, which actually leans me toward the game over as well. So I will do that for my best bets tonight. I know we have 8 games, but I'm doing both of my best bets in the Vegas Calgary game. So over 3.5 goals at the plus money price for Vegas, and then over 5.5 for the full game. Let's roll, because they have been allowing some goals defensively as well. But you and I both, you talked about your futures play on the Golden Knights. I have a Stanley Cup ticket for them and for them to win the division as well. I feel like as the season goes, yes, I feel like as the season goes on, this team is just going to be able to roll lines. They have so much depth and potential for offensive firepower. The penalty kill can be better, but the power play has been good already to start the year and was great a season ago. I think they're just going to continue to build on that with Mitch Marner in the fold. So I'm excited to see what Vegas does. Kind of a wonky start with all of these overtime games, but maybe tonight is the setting of the stage for more confidence, I think, offensively for them as a group. This show has flown by, Keith. Thank you for hanging out with me. What's on the Netflix agenda for tonight?
I have the final episode of Wayward. If I can get to it tonight, I will try. If not, it'll be a tomorrow morning ride before I teach a class at Hofstra.
Okay, I've got to check that out. I have a 4-hour flight coming ahead on Thursday, so maybe that's what the show I need to start to get me by for travel for football season.
I think so.
For Keith Irizarry, our producer Justin, Stormy Buonantony, thanks for hanging out with us. Follow the Money is coming up next.